It's recording. Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land. This is Sam Dennehy, aka Halfass Customs, and this is Halfass Presents the podcast. On today's episode, our special guest is Dana Stratton. Dana, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in the hobby?
Right now I'm doing 3D models of HO scale vehicles breaking into 164 scale vehicles. Always have been a model railroader, always been every kind of hobbyist really. You can walk into a hobby shop and see anything in there, that's what I've been into: radio control, vehicles, drones, airplanes. I do 1/35th scale models and dioramas, just a little bit of everything. So I'm just a modeler. So everything model I like to do, and the trains have always been there ever since I was a kid. Same thing as everybody else. Got one for Christmas, and when I was like 12, and that took off. So right now, the business that I'm into now is the detail parts, beds, custom trucks. I got into that little niche called maintenance of way vehicles. Just found it on Facebook one day, and Raymond Rodriguez and some others had started this little niche group, and just took off from there. Everybody dug what I was making, and I wanted a 3D printer anyway, but I couldn't justify it. I'm one of those guys that has to, something has to pay for itself before I can spend, a bunch of money. So,
me too.
First one, like $600 and something, paid for that within the first month. Bought a second one, was making money then at that point. Now I have 5 with the 6th one on the way. So
holy moly,
the business is growing really well. When we were off,
awesome.
for the COVID-19 thing, I had 7 weeks off, and I from daylight till dark and late every night, I was busy the entire time. So it's been pretty popular for, and I think what the key is there for me is that I supply the customers with what they want. They'll send me sometimes a picture and say, I drive this truck, I'd like to have a model of it to put on my layout, or I saw this truck and I think it's cool. Can you do it? And I think what's good for me is I taught myself how to draw, spent, relatively just a few days to kind of get myself used to Fusion 360. And then now somebody will ask for something, and I'll sit at night here on my laptop watching TV, and I'll draw, a new bed, something like this right here. Somebody says, hey, can you do this for me? And I'll say, yeah, I think so. And within an hour or so, I've got a new model, and I run out to the garage and put it on the printers, and the next day I've got it.
That's amazing, man. My son got me a 3D printer, the spool kind, so not a resin kind.
FDM.
But I've been I feel like I have old man syndrome, and when I say old man, like super senior citizen, where I can't learn anything new anymore, because I open up Thinkiverse, and then I open up Kira, and I can't downscale nothing. I don't even hesitate to draw anything. I don't have anything up there to let me create my own design. But even to take something that's already pre-existing and just shrink it to what I need it to, it's beyond me. I don't know.
And
I've looked up YouTube videos, and it doesn't seem to help.
Believe it or not, that's how I learned how to do the Fusion 360. There's a series of videos called Learn Fusion 360 or Die Trying, and that's what I watched. I spent 2 4-hour sessions, which I was already pretty computer literate to start with. So the graphics programs that I use at work, and a little bit of work with AutoCAD and stuff in the past. So luckily, a whole lot of that carried over. And after 2 4-hour sessions during one Christmas break, I was drawing things the next day, after those 2 4-hour sessions, and I just get better all the time. Not bragging, I'm just saying I learn more all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've told quite a few people this on the podcast. I think when I will be totally secure and confident in myself is when the programming gets updated enough to where I can just take the picture on my phone, click it, drag it to the printer, click it, and then it prints it for me.
I've been a big proponent of 3D printing for years now, and I've told everybody that it's not going to be that long from now when they'll be in everybody's homes.
Right. It's already in a quarter of the people's homes.
But right now, like you said, you have to have these skills to be able to use it. So when it will truly change, is when you can think of it like a microwave or a DVD player or something like that. When you push a button and out will pop your thing, then everybody will have one. And that will come one of these days.
Yeah, probably soon too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the way everything's advancing so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I foresee a day when you won't buy a product from Amazon, you'll buy a file, and then you'll print that file at your house. So you don't have to wait for 2 days to be delivered. You'll just go make it yourself. Not, of course, everything can't be that way, but you'd be amazed. I mean, everything from printing houses to printing shoes you can do now.
Right. Well, here's what's funny is when the 3D printing really, I guess, blew up and everybody was able to be aware of it. There was, I was watching this YouTube video of a tech convention somewhere in this world, and they were talking about taking ingredients to make food out of, make it in a solid spool, and then feed it into the printer. They were 3D printing apples. And I thought, holy crap, that is the replicator from Star Trek right there.
Yeah.
And if we can replicate food, that's, well, not replicate it, but 3D print it.
Sure.
There's no end on what we can 3D print with the right, stuff.
Yeah. 3D printers are already on the International Space Station. And they'll be a somewhat integral part of us going to Mars. They just tested a printer just now that could print its own pressure tank, like for liquid oxygen or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And they've also tested the printing of how they would actually take Mars soil and mix it together and print their housing once they got there using the Mars soil.
Oh,
so it's just, and they just printed a large 3D printed boat recently. They've already done cars, of course. And aerospace industry is using it, NASA's using it, to actually make production parts. So it's coming. I've already seen a huge rise. When I first started, which was basically 3 years ago, there wasn't that many people that were doing 3D printing. And just since I've been in it in the last 3 years, the people who are doing it for the model railroad hobby has really grown.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've only ever ordered anything off of Shapeways for 3D printing wise, and I mean the amount of crap, and when I say crap I don't mean actual crap, but just the volume of stuff and every scale to everything imaginable is unbelievable.
Yep, it sure is. And when you get from Shapeways the way they work, you're getting your order will go to maybe hundreds of printers out there, printer places, printer people like me. If I wanted to, I could sign up and make for Shapeways too. So you're going to get your order, and Shapeways is just phenomenal for the amount of things that it offers, like you said. And they do metal of all different kinds and flexibles, and so not just for the hobby, but I mean pieces for cars,
life.
Mechanical.
I mean, I thought I heard on the news that some hospitals were even making like replacement parts for your body out of 3D printing.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. They've 3D printed skin, and now they're working real hard on a 3D printed, I believe it was kidney or liver or something like that. I believe it was liver. And it's absolutely amazing. So there's no end to it. Like I said, it to me, it's the big tech of the future,
Oh, yeah.
It'll be as common as your microwave in your house.
I mean, if you remember, maybe you watched it, maybe you didn't, but I'd hope you had the Fifth Element when they're creating the Fifth Element. That machine right there. I think there was another movie. I don't think it was iRobot, but I think it was another movie maybe 10 years ago that was doing sort of the same idea where they were sort of slicing, printing a person or a machine or something. That's going to be the future. Printing everything out of who knows what.
Yep, I'm with you.
But to get back to the hobby side, so you designed your own product because you taught yourself how to do that. Then you print your own product.
Yeah.
How many different products do you think you? I know you said you're getting the 1 to 64 too. So how many different products do you think you offer at the moment?
Right. It's certainly hundreds right now. Hundreds of different bodies, hundreds of different detail sets. When I first started, I was really into building the whole truck itself to sell. and the 3D printing the bodies and the detail parts was the ability to help myself build trucks faster. But everybody wanted the stuff that I was building, to do their own stuff. Like, for example, a different bed, different type of bed. And
Right.
I've even got some of the details in this one here where I do sell welders and compressors and detail parts to make a nicer vehicle. But I've also got some where I just build them right into the unit itself. So that's pretty handy. But the good thing about the scale, when you talk about 164 scale versus 187, or any other skills as far as that goes, once I have my drawing, I can upscale it or even downscale it to N scale if I want to. And it's just a couple clicks of the mouse and I can make different scales. For example, this is if you see these two cranes, this is a truck I call the Beast. It's a really huge maintenance away truck. So this is an HO scale, and you can see the crane on there, which is 187 scale, and right beside it is the exact same crane that I just scaled up to 164. And it's just, so it's easy to do. The bed, same thing, scale it up. Anything that I make and draw at all can be any scale that I want it to be. So
yeah, that's really cool.
I've expanded too into accessory packs now. This is, again, reacting to what somebody else had wanted, cutting torches and gas bottles. And I sell a pack like that. And I keep my pricing very simple. Like, pack items like this are usually $10. If I sell like a little compressor, that's a little portable compressor with a set of RPS wheels with it, $10. And just all kinds of examples like this. These are little carts that would be working on a work gang. So I offer an awful lot of stuff like that too. Toolboxes that'll go on either the big maintenance away trucks or RPS, which RPS is also a big seller for me.
Right.
And even, everybody really likes the die-cast master scale construction vehicles. And this right here, Holland, which I'm going to plug them if you don't mind. Holland makes,
plug whatever you want.
Yeah, the butt welder trucks that butt weld two pieces of rail together contacted me. And every year they give out a set of awards to their associates. So people say, hey, I think this guy did an absolutely fantastic job this year. I think he deserves a Holland award. Well, usually they give him a plaque. Well, they contacted me and they wanted 10 1/64 scale Holland welding trucks made to give as awards. And they were just a huge hit. And everybody loved those. And I said, well, okay, what else can I do with this butt welder that I've designed? So I just go on Google Images and look for butt welders, and finds out that they had portable butt welders. So I took one of the die-cast master, really super nice cranes, and I made, the exact same thing that they use on the railroads to butt weld the rails together. So everything from little pieces, and I'll sell a pack of them for like five of them for like $10 or something like that for those butt welders, and
that's funny
the compressors, everything.
Because I was watching, I think Facebook just had some kind of video pop up of somebody posted that was a friend of mine. That's probably the only way I saw it. That they were doing that same thing on the track. They had this machine that was hanging off of the end of a crane, looking not a crane but an arm, and they were welding the track together. I was like, that's weird. Okay, cool, I get it. And then you just now talk about it. It's like Facebook knew that this is what we were going to talk about. So they gave me the information first. Yeah, so I knew what we were talking about.
But I've just expanded and expanded. And it's based off what the customers asked for. For example, orange barrels. Almost all of these trucks will have an orange road cone that they put out, to signify, hey, I'm here, be careful of this truck. And then Mike Buddy is a fantastic guy. You know Mike really well from Ken's podcast.
He mentions you a lot.
Yeah, he had built some stacked road cones, and he went to the trouble of cutting little bitty squares together, making these stacked road cones. I said, heck, Mike, I can print the crap out of them things for you. So I go in and make stacked road cones, and then orange barrels was the next thing that come up. People like orange barrels. Well, also, if you've ever been along a highway project, you'll see that they stack them on top of each other and put them in the trucks. So I made stacked orange barrels. So now I've got everything. If you're wanting orange barrels or cones, I actually print these in the orange color, so you don't have to paint them either. So that's another thing that I'm always trying to think of what would help the
customer
buyer at the end, the customer, what would help them to make it quick. Same thing with welders, compressors, gang boxes, hose reels, on the back of these maintenance away trucks, they pull off their air hoses or their grease lines and stuff like that, all molded in color. Even got the decals for the welders themselves. So there's a pack for $10 and somebody's got, 3/4 of the details that they need to do a truck or two. There's several pieces in here. Red, blue for the different welding companies. And all I'm doing is just responding back to the people who say, I'd like to build a truck like this, or will you build me a truck like this? Either way. And
right,
satisfy their needs.
that's awesome, man. That's super cool, because there's not a I was just talking to somebody. Was I just talking to? I was just talking to somebody. You can tell my memory's not that good. I think it was just last night that I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about how there's not enough innovators and inventors out there to help this hobby along, besides actual huge corporations that are building 10,000 of one vehicle or something. And what you're doing, and like William Radcliffe is doing, you're providing a service that is definitely much needed in this hobby, and just in all these scales for this hobby, and that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. And that's really what it comes down to, is I love doing it myself, and therefore if I love, somebody else probably loves it too, which they have proved that they do. And like I said, I remember one of the very first custom trucks that I built was when a friend of mine said, I have a buddy, it's getting ready to be his birthday, and I'd like to see if you would build a truck just like he drives for me. And I prefer, like most anybody who's going to draw or build something, at least 3 angles on something. But all he had was a rear
Right.
3/4 shot view of his buddy's truck that he ran every day, the wheel set truck. And I said, man, I think I can take it from there. And sure enough, I built same color, same everything of the truck his buddy drove, and he gave it to him for his birthday. And that's when I really started getting into the custom side of it. And now people will say, can you make this for me? And 9/10 of the time, the answer is yes, as long as you got at least one picture, but not necessarily. Google Images,
Right.
things in the world, and you can go in and type in MOW trucks, which I was doing today. I have someone designing. I'm pretty good at designing and drawing, but I'm still not 100% there. So I have someone that's working on a certain kind of CAD for me. And I just went to Google Images and downloaded about 10 doggone images and said, okay, I want it to look like this. And so I'm expanding not only with what I can draw, but also a little bit into what other people can draw. And there's a fantastic modeler in Belgium named Evan Diaz, and probably messed up his last name, but he's just a great modeler. And he has given, he models for a living. He works for customers. He works for museums. He uses a 3D printer tool. And so he does not adhere to selling the stuff. So what he does, when he has something he has to make, he'll draw it. And then he'll put it out for free for other people and say, hey, here's this drawing. If you want to use it, be my guest. And me and him shared drawings back and forth because he's been such a nice guy. So 95% of the stuff, 90, maybe closer to 99 is all my stuff. But there again, there's a few artists out there who'd like to share too. And we'll share drawings back and forth. And I've gotten a few things off him. And yeah, you got to love a guy like that who's just absolutely, not only he's a professional, but he's just a great guy to share with.
Right.
Go to thingiverse.com and you can find all kinds of files. But to find that particular file, to find that truck you want, to find that piece of equipment you want or something like that, you're going to probably have to come back, somebody like me or the other people out there who draw and design 3D print and get. But
Yeah.
who done that 5 years ago? 5 years ago, you were stuck to whatever was on the store shelves.
Right.
So
yeah, and I know when I got into this scale, I was stuck with what was out there, and it was kind of discouraging because everything I could get my hands on was everything everybody else had already had, and now I'm trying to reinvent the wheel of trying to make it look different than anybody's ever built it. And it works when I do it, but at the same time, back then, it was, you've already seen that model probably 100 times on other people's layouts. So all you're seeing is just a different paint job and a different version of that car that you've seen a million times already. So it's neat now that a lot more companies are coming out with other things, and we got like high-end models like Neo and BOS, or yeah, BOS, Best of Show. Yeah, they're doing like high-end models, and then the 3D printing models of cars that just aren't available anywhere else. So it's neat that the hobby of this scale is evolving
Oh,
quicker than it ever has been, I
yeah.
think.
Yes, I agree 100%. Even your big corporations, Intermountain, and some of Tangent, and all these guys that are the big makers, they're listening, I think, more to the customer now. And you've got, for example, I'm a big Illinois Central Gulf modeler, and I always loved them because they ran right beside my house since I was a kid. And so for years, you couldn't get one of the most ubiquitous models that there is out there, which is a rebuilt Paducah GP10, GP8. So finally, Intermountain comes out and makes one, and there's thousands of these daggone locomotives all over this United States, but yet it never got modeled, and it's kind of crazy. And then now they're listening to us. Even Walters has just recently come out with a rebuilt Paducah Jeep. So uh, cars, freight cars, stuff like that never would have gotten built probably back when there's like predominantly Athearn and blue box kits and stuff like that. The state of the art of the hobby has increased so much, and I believe they listen a whole lot more to the customers, and that's really changing the hobby.
As they should have from the beginning, though. I mean, if they're a company, say, I mean, they literally may not even be into the railroad world themselves. They could just be working for a company that creates stuff for that world. So if you think about bigwigs that run companies, most of them aren't hobbyists anyways. They're more into their high roller lifestyle or whatever, that deals with golfing and stuff. um, so they're not like the hobbyists like we are. So to not listen to the hobbyists and create stuff that they desperately want or need,
Yeah,
it seems kind of
yeah.
backwards to me, but that's usually how big companies work anyways.
It seems like you said, now though they're changing that model, and now when
Right.
you go to one of the big meets and you meet the guy from Athearn or Intermountain or whatever, that you've got guys there. At least the representatives that are there right then, they are listening to that modeler and they're saying, "Hey, what would you like to have?" And of course, their wheels roll slow. Everything has to be decided on usually by a committee, and then
Oh
it
yeah.
has to be bidded, and of course, it's going to be made in China, and you got to have initial shots, and then it's got to be reviewed, and your lead time is just huge in cases like that, and it's a huge commitment in money too, because plastic molds cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they do have to be careful because the investment is huge, and quite frankly, the return on their investment is kind of small. So I understand they're being very, very careful.
Yeah.
I truly understand that, but the 3D printing turns that completely around and puts that back in our hands. And for me, I can, like I said, I can put design something in an hour and run out to the garage. I can print it in 3 hours. And so 4 hours I have from what I thought was an idea to, the actual
An
thing in my
actual
hand.
product.
If I want to make a
Yeah.
change, it's easy to do. If this one didn't turn out good, I throw that away and I go make another one. And if it turned out great, I hit print five, and I print five of them in a certain amount of time. So that's beautiful, and that's what's really going to change the hobby for people. I think the key there for the 3D printers is they've got to become a little more user friendly, like I talked about. They've got to become almost like a microwave one, but that's coming. My phone,
Right.
I have one of the newest Note 10 phones, and the reason I bought that, you see the extra cameras on here, so I can actually take this camera and I can go all around an object. I
Oh,
haven't
you
done
got
it,
the 3D.
yeah,
Yeah, that 3D
yeah,
photo.
and then
That's
turn
cool.
that into a drawing. And it's supposed to be relatively quick. I haven't had it very long, so I haven't had a chance to do it much yet. But this and 3D scanning systems are going to be close to what you asked about. You said, I want to be able to just take a picture and say, print this. These
Yeah.
phones and some of the other scanning systems are going to get us there one of these days. I don't think it'll be like in the next 6 months, but the next year or two, yeah, we'll be able to
Oh
do
yeah, yeah. I figured that timeline too, right there. Because I mean, think about like you said, where you were 3 years ago and where we are today.
that.
I mean,
Sure.
just a year ago,
Yeah.
I think resin was just becoming a thing, and now
Correct.
look at it.
Yeah.
It's like the number one type of printing to do.
Yeah. My first printers were to the FDM printers like you were talking about with the spool.
Mm-hmm.
And they were great for what I was doing at the time, but the after work, because you had to sand it and stuff and
Right,
prime
right.
paint it. And it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. It changed, my hobby completely. But uh, people were starting to want more detail like they were seeing from Shapeways and some of these other
Mm-hmm.
job shops. And so that's what changed it to me. So I go out and I buy my first resin printer and just phenomenal the amount of detail and stuff, how well you can see it in here, but the doors and the latches and, all the detail that's in that particular piece. Now I
Right.
put that into it where before I would have to add,
Yeah, right, right.
styrene, photo etch slam locks, plastruct for the doors and all that. So it made making that part much more time intensive. So now I just mold it in there, and like even lately I've been messing with these are the rails that are rail holders that hold a piece of rail when you go out to a site. So a lot of the trucks
Oh,
have,
wow.
so when they need to replace a piece of rail with the crane that would be on the back, they can do that. So I'm experimenting with stuff like that, so that when you get that, you paint this thing white or blue or whatever color. It's usually white in maintenance away, but you paint that thing, you put your crane on the back, you throw a piece of rail up there, and you've got a truck that's ready to go out and work, on your layout. But that's the beauty of these resin printers is the detail, the smoothness, all the detail that you can put into it, all the things you can add to it, and it prints. Like I said, I can print 4 of them in 3 or 4 hours, and boom, I've got something I can sell. And being able to print in colors too has always been a big changer too. Lately, to say you don't have to paint it when you get it. You just take it and put it on your truck, and it's ready to go.
Right. Well, I have an idea for you. It's not an actual product. Well, I guess it's a product idea, but it's not something you have to design, something you've already got. But I know in the resin world, just the casting resin, like Mike Budd does with all his cars and whatnot. You do have those cars that come out without perfection and got like little bubbles or little stuff that doesn't work. And you were saying if it's got problems, you can just throw it out and print another one. I think maybe not. It probably wouldn't work at all. Or I mean, it will work, but I don't think maybe it'll sell. Maybe it won't sell. But maybe have those imperfections at just a lower cost. So you can have like a yard of nice trucks, and then you have a yard of trucks that have been hit by a car or something, or slid down the icy hill and crashed into the tree.
I think probably an example.
You have those cars in workshops and whatnot, and back lots of construction yards.
Yeah, I actually had something kind of like that. I was working on this bed here for quite some time, and it's pretty simple and not a huge bed, but to get it just right where it would print really right, I had several that didn't turn out 100% perfect, right? So usually a bed is $20. Almost all my beds are the same price. I make the pricing really simple, so it's not hard. I don't have 100 different pricings. Usually a bed's $20, and one of the little bags are 10. And but when I was going through this, I must have made 20 of these daggone things, and about 10 of them to me weren't perfect. And I'm a perfectionist. I can't help it. That's just the way that I am. So I put them on there. I said, hey, if anybody wants one of these beds, for I think it was $10, half price or something like that. It's got a tiny imperfection in it. Just ask for it. If you order something else, say, hey, can I have one of those, cheap beds? And yeah. And so when I say truly throw something away, it has to be pretty much unusable. Something I just don't want going out with my name on it. So I do try to have a few things, like that. But I'm just a perfectionist. I can't help it. It just has to be the nearest thing to perfect.
It makes sense. Yeah. No, I know when I build for customers, I want it to look as best as possible. And if it doesn't, it drives me crazy. And especially if I've gone too far and it's like, I don't really want to rebuild it at all.
Right.
That will drive me crazy that it doesn't look perfect. So I get it. Don't get me wrong. It was just a thought, because I know like Louis was casting a bunch of Jordan Highway miniature castings of hot rods and whatnot, and in his beginning stages of casting, they weren't the greatest. That's who I was talking to. I was talking to Lou. You can see how my brain doesn't work at all. But yeah, he sent me over a bunch of his really rough castings. And I was like, this is perfect, dude. You don't have to make them any better than this, because rat rods, hot rods, they all start like this, as bad of a casting as this is. And then it goes to a metal shop and it goes to the repair shop, and that's where they make it look good. So even if you kept it this way and you never got any better, they would be great for rat rods or a junkyard even, you know?
There you go. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
So
You talk
I
about,
get that you want it perfect, but
yeah,
some of it, it can be used for that too. You don't have to throw everything away that doesn't look good.
you know what I found with dealing with these modelers is that you've got some people who want stuff and absolutely have no skills. You know what I'm saying? They are the perfect, and God bless them. I used to be the exact same way. You go to a hobby store and you buy what you need, and you bring it home and you slap it on your layout, and then maybe
Right.
you know, detail around it or whatever. And that's great. You know, everybody doesn't have, you know, mad skills like a lot of other people do. But then you got other people too who just want the pieces and the parts to make their own, and you have everything in between. And I think that's one thing that I really, really, really went out of my way to do, is to make sure that I have something for everything from one end of the gamut to the other.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want that perfect piece and you don't want to touch it all, and you don't have any painting and decaling skills, I'll set that up for you and give you that. But also too, if you want to make everything yourself and all you need is little pieces and parts, I try to give you that too. So I think as people like you and I who are accustomed building for stuff, I think we have to think about is everybody from one end of the gamut to the other. And that's what
Right.
I have to do.
Well, I do that too. So like whenever I build a new Ghostbusters card for somebody, I'll usually post it up and say latest build, and then everybody then will contact me. Oh my God, I want one. How much is it? And it's like every 6 months it takes for a new card to kind of or a new few cards to appear, and then that's when the storm of people start to contact you.
Yeah, I get the same
And
thing.
I always give them the option to, here's where you get all the separate pieces, and this is how much everything would cost, or you could just have me build it all
Sure.
for you.
Sure.
So I give them the sources and I don't hide any of the information,
Right.
but then I say I can also just build it for you and you don't have to worry about any of this stuff.
Sure. And you'll get that everything in between, won't you? You get from one extreme to the other,
Yeah.
and which
Well,
is great.
so I don't offer any of that stuff except for the decals, because I bought a whole bunch of sets of them from Dave's Decals, and I say I can sell you the decal or you can get it from him, and this is the link for the Ghostbusters car, or I can build it for you. But yeah, if people built it themselves, I don't know off of the links I gave them, but I obviously know if they want me to build it. But
Right. Sure.
yeah, I don't know how many people have taken my links and actually decided to do it themselves.
I would think several, you know, because you have a lot of people out there who want to build themselves. You have other people too that simply can't afford, you know, to buy a custom built vehicle, but they can afford the casting or the decals and do it themselves. I think that's one of the great things about the hobbies. You can find joy in this hobby and in most hobbies too, as far as that goes. You can find joy in just about anything you like to do. If you enjoy one part of the hobby, if you enjoy building, you can build, you know, to your heart's content. If you just enjoy taking it out of the box and setting it on and running your train, you can do that too. That's
Oh, yeah.
what's beautiful about the hobby, in my opinion.
Right. Well, that like what you were saying, now people would go just to the store and buy it and set it down. Those are people that they're collectors in the hobby, not builders,
Mm-hmm.
but they could be part of a train club
Mm-hmm.
that already has the layout. So all they ever need to do is buy
Sure.
the stuff and then run it
Sure.
or lay it down on their module or something
Sure.
that they may have bought. But yeah, there's collectors in this hobby, and then there's modelers in this hobby, and there's a lot of both.
like your, I could see your shelves up behind you back there. I've got
Yeah.
some same exact shelves, I do believe, and I have a shelf that I'm always putting builds because I love to build. I'm just one of those people
Yeah.
that love to build. So I will build something, you know, like the beast truck or whatever, just because I enjoy building it. And then I'll put it in the one cabinet, and I'll take a picture of the cabinet and say, "Hey, you guys, you know, the cabinet's getting full. Let's deal. Let's move these things down. You know, crazy Dana's dealing wild. You know." And I'll sell out a bunch. But then I have another couple of cabinets that I put in there I like to collect vehicles from other builders, Mark Kulak and some of the others out there that are well known that are building these vehicles. And I love to trade builds with them. I'll buy sometimes, but I'd much rather just trade. I'll trade you one of my custom vehicles for one of your custom vehicles. And then those, Byron Wilcutt's another good example of that. His stuff will go into my special cabinets like yours behind you. Those are mine. And y'all can fight over them when I'm dead because they're never going.
Right.
So I just enjoy collecting other people's work, and seeing the way that they do things, and just really looking at, to me, is kind of like art. I look, to a certain extent, what I do is kind of like art too, so it's nice to be able to collect other people's work and have something that you can say, boy, that Mark, he really did a great job of that. Byron, look at the detail he put on that. And I have collections, and then I have stuff for sale, and then I have stuff of mine too, which I usually sell. Just about 99% of whatever I make, I will sell, because I can always make another. My wife helped me with that. She said, there's no reason to hang on that. You've got the printer, you got the molds, you got more of the body sitting right here. If you ever want to, just make you another one. I said, well, I guess that's true. And that's when I just started selling pretty much whatever I don't trade, I sell.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I only sell if somebody inquires about it. So I don't have like a website where I put up all my cars that I would sell. But if, like, around the holidays, I'll get some messages, hey, you have anything for sale? Because the holidays are coming up. I'd like to give this to my husband, or I'd like to give this to my son or something. And then I'll look through my collection back there on the wall, or I got two display cases over here full of cars.
Yeah.
And I usually just say, let me look at what I got that I don't really care about anymore, maybe too old. And I'll see, I'll give them a list of what I got. And then that's usually when I go out on a like super low sale spree too. Because usually my cars will be like as low as $60 to $70 each, but I'll sell some for like $25 just to get it out of here. Make some holiday money.
So often, especially with some of my older builds too. I still have some of the older and simpler builds. It's still custom, but it's not a full blown 3D printed custom made.
Oh, right.
I'll blow them out for, like you said, $20-25. Just to move.
Yeah, if I'm just doing a wheel swap, then definitely $20. But if I'm doing a paint and wheels, then it can be around like 50, but I'd rather I don't just paint it, I'll detail it too.
Sure.
But it makes sense. But I don't really sell as much because I don't build to sell. I build for me. And I only sell, like I said, if people inquire about it. But
now I hate to say it like this, but I build for myself because I enjoy building.
Right.
I sell what I build because once I built it, 90% of the enjoyment's gone for me. I keep a few special builds, like I said, Illinois Central. I do Illinois Central Gulf, and I made myself some Illinois Central stuff. And I kept those just because they're near to me, and they go in my display case along with my trains and the engines and cabooses and stuff. But 90% of the time, once the building's done, I'm pretty much done with it. I enjoy building a lot, but it's time to move it on down the road and let somebody else enjoy it. And then, that's half the time. And then the other half the time is, like I said, when somebody sends me an email and says, can you build this for me? Or can you build for this other guy? And I'll do that. But I just enjoy the heck out of building. But once it's built, it's got to move on.
Well, because then it just sits in a display case and does nothing. So I totally get it. Because all these cars, there's over 100 in each one, easy.
Yeah.
And then I don't have no clue on how much are in the other ones. But they just sit there. Because I don't have a train layout. I'm never going to have a train layout. I don't like trains as much as I like cars. And my modules, they sit out, but I don't like to leave cars on them because my air in this house doesn't seem to be as good as I wish it was, because it's dusty, and I don't want dust all over these cars. And then half of the cars, they're just resin cars that don't have windows to them, so you have to put the tape on it. I definitely don't want the dust to get all over the tape.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
I just put them in a display case and leave them there as long as possible.
All right. Give me 1 second. I'm going to spin around here a little bit. The sun, I didn't notice, is getting behind me. And I'm
Yeah,
afraid
it is.
we're in video. So let's move around. Thought that would be a pretty good spot to get, but unfortunately, the sun's setting in Kentucky.
It was a good spot in the beginning.
It's about 95 degrees outside right now. So yeah, the sun's starting to come down, and it's getting down to 90. So hell, it's getting better, right?
Yeah, perfect painting weather.
Yeah, there you go.
That's cool though. It's neat that you've been doing it that long, and then you're printing, and then you're offering your prints for sale, and so you have your little side business of printing stuff and designing stuff for customers, printing stuff, and then you build too. So you're not just a store basically.
Right,
you do build them.
Right.
And you are a modeler. So
yeah.
that's like the trifecta right there.
I guess cool. So, yeah. If you think about it that way, I really enjoy what I do, and I don't think I've been into hobbies before. I've also built custom cars and street rods for years, painting, custom painting, pinstriping, airbrushing, all that stuff that I do, and it seems that I'll kind of get bored with stuff and move on to the next thing for a while, but I always tend to come back to it. And like I said, the trains is one thing that I've always come back to. I always come back to the trains. I always come back to the building. And I'm always building something, even if it is the military models. I'll build 135th scale military medals for dioramas. I don't build really much just for a single vehicle, but I build dioramas. And I'll go compete with them because the competition is the fun thing to me there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, the
people, we had so much fun. Like when we met at the RPMS meet in St. Louis. I don't know about you, but I really missed that this year, not being able to go to that.
Yeah. That's the only time I ever really see anybody on that side of the country. Because, I mean, you see their posts online, and then you make a comment or two or whatever, but you don't have full-on conversations with people. Right. So, yeah. And then that's so many people there.
Yeah, it's such a fun time, and I really missed it this year, not being able to go. And I was going to try to go to the big NMRA meet, and of course I got canceled. Well, so much for that. But that really it kind of messed up my whole year that I didn't get to go out and meet people and stuff. And it was such a fun time last time. The first time I went, I just brought a few things and just wanted to kind of get my feet wet and see what the meet was about and stuff. And then when I went back last year, I actually brought my wife with me, and we turned it into a little mini vacation.
So was 2018 your first year?
2017, I think, was first. And in 2018, I guess 2019 was last year when I brought up a whole display, and I sold finished vehicles, and I sold the parts and stuff like that. And I didn't actually display anything, which when we go back the next time, if we get to go back again, I'm going to do both. I'm going to set up both a place to sell and to also, I'm also going to display some of my stuff, because that's just a ball to go and meet and talk to everybody and see their building. And also for me, for somebody who's producing things, it's a great opportunity to see what people want, because if they're out there building stuff and you'll run into guys who say, well, I built this, but boy, I sure would like to have that. And okay, I'm gonna make it for you,
right.
And it's a new product that I can offer. So that's pretty cool. But just meeting people that, like you said, but always been a 5-minute conversation on Facebook. All of a sudden you meet this guy. It's just great. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I was last year when I went. Joseph Bilvins contacted me before we went up there and was asking me, "You gonna go, right? You gonna go?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so that day, I think we went up on a Thursday because it's Friday, Saturday show. We went up on Thursday, and he's IMing me, "Hey, this is the hotel you're staying at?" And I said, "Yeah, this is the hotel." He's like, "Cool, I got the same one." I'm like, "Okay." And then that night when I got up there, he wanted to meet me, and so we went into the lobby and we talked for like, I think maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it was the very first time I ever actually met him. And we were able to kind of kick it off that way. And he hung out with me the whole entire weekend.
Yeah, and wasn't that a ball?
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting that, but it was cool that he was that nice and that cool. And And I guess I was that nice and that cool back to him that, you know, we were able to click, and
Sure.
we've been friends ever
Yeah.
since.
We
Like
did the
he's
same
helped me
thing.
with a lot of things.
Yeah. Last year, Radisson McGuire, he was there. And
Yeah.
he said, hey, he said, a bunch of us are meeting out in there's a little atrium out there outside, you know, where everybody could come out there and sit. And we went out there and met, you know, this guy and that guy and this guy. And it was just great to put a, you know, a face to the name and sit out there and just talk, you know, about the mutual, you know, love for the hobbies that we have.
Right.
That's one thing I don't get here at all. I'm in central Kentucky. I'm halfway between Louisville and Bowling Green. And there's a pretty good sized club in Louisville, and there's a smaller club in Bowling Green. But both of those are an hour to an hour and a half drive each way for me
Too
to get
far.
to. Yeah, too far. So that makes it kind of rough. So that's why I really and that you talked about Facebook. You tell me what Facebook has done for this hobby? It's just blown it apart because people all over the world can talk back and forth to each other and share their ideas and share their builds and share their
Instantly
love.
too.
Yeah, ain't that something? Just
Right.
absolutely amazing.
Because it's so funny. Like the only reason I got a Facebook is because I was anti-Facebook for probably the first 5 or 6 years it was out. I was like, MySpace didn't go nowhere.
Yeah.
Why would we go to Facebook? And then, like a lot of the internet forums, they were slowly dying.
Right.
I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm already on so many forums. I don't want to have another forum that I have to bother with.
Yeah.
And it ended up being so much easier to use, but a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning because, you know, on a Facebook or on a internet forum, you can create your own kind of gallery or your own folder, plug everything in, and then all those people will be able to see it as they see it come to the top of the list.
Right.
And I was like, this is my area. This is me. If you want to look at my stuff, look at it here. I'm posting all this stuff here. And then I got into Facebook and I instantly went into a bunch of groups. And I was like, how is anybody supposed to see my stuff? I post it here, and then 10 minutes later, it's like so far down the list. How do I keep track of any of this? They're like, put it on your own page. And I'm like, no. I don't want to. No, that's if I put it on my own page, then why did I join this group?
Yeah.
Just let me put it in the group and then like have a folder in this group so everybody knows what's my stuff.
There you go.
But I mean, you know, you start to go away from the internet forums, and now if you do Instagram, you know, I don't care for Instagram at all. It seems like a big waste of my time.
I don't do it.
But yeah, Facebook seems to be where anybody 30 years and over hang out at and post their stuff. Because if you're 30 years or younger, you're only on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah,
Facebook is for old people.
There you go. Hey, thank God, because you know I'm pushing 60 myself, so I'm right in the right spot, I suppose. And actually, Facebook. Sorry, go ahead.
This is my thing. If Facebook can post pictures and videos and texts, like if you're just writing something,
right.
What's the point of having two separate ones that do the same thing as Facebook already does? If Twitter only lets you do texts and Instagram lets you do videos, but hardly any text, or videos or photos, but hardly text, why have two if you can just have the one?
What's the point,
Seems
right?
stupid to me. But kids want to be difficult.
Dang no kids. Get off my lawn.
Right. Go stay over there. We'll stay in Facebook land.
Facebook, actually, I'm like you. Everybody was getting Facebook. I was like, I really don't see the point. I'm not getting a thing out of this, you know, talking to people at work and stuff like that. Well, I talk to them every day. And I was really about ready to just fold out of it and get out of it when I discovered the Facebook maintenance of way page and say that looks really interesting. And now the world's just real blow. That's all I do anymore on the internet is Facebook and draw, you know, using, of course, my Fusion 360, you know, and some of the other drawing programs out there, you know, are on the web. They're web based. And so that's really about all I do with the computer at home anymore, you know, is surf Facebook. And it's funny how many different, especially if you have a lot of interest like I do, how many pages you'll end up subscribing to, you know. Away custom vehicles, fire and equipment. I mean, it just goes on and on and on because construction
and they're ever growing.
Yeah,
You think how long Facebook's been out and how long all of our hobbies have already been out, and there's still groups that are growing out of each hobby,
absolutely.
you know.
It's
And then just
fantastic.
so many groups that are like you have no clue on
Mhm.
how many there are. There's just so many of them. There's no way you would even know about this certain group
Sure,
because
sure.
it's beyond your comprehension of knowing that it would exist to begin with.
About once a week, I'll come up, there'll be a little thing on the other side, suggested groups or something like that. I'll go, I
Hmm.
didn't know that existed. Boom, go on that. Next thing you know, I've got 100 different groups I'm members of. But
Right,
yeah, but
right.
it's just so much fun. I if it wasn't for this, I would have nobody to share the hobby with, and quite frankly, with like the military models, we had a club in Radcliffe, which is up near Fort Knox,
Hmm.
Kentucky, and so we had a military modeling club, a lot of military guys and a lot of guys that had that same interest, and that made it fun. And I stayed in the military modeling for quite a few number of years because we had that group and that
Right.
camaraderie and that fun. And when that went away and dissolved, I basically didn't have anything. I got into radio patrol airplanes and stuff, but even still, it was a 45-minute ride or an hour ride to go to Bowling Green to go down there and fly with other people and stuff. So the Facebook has really opened it up for me because just like you and I are sitting here talking and you and I sharing our interests back and forth, that has really helped the hobby itself, I think, and has really kept it alive and fun and going for me.
Oh, definitely. Because think about an R187th scale hobby. Think if you were to try to have your own little version of this club in your state or in your city.
Right.
There would be maybe two people, if that.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
would,
I
my
know in
little
my
town would be
city,
that.
there would be one, and it would be
Yeah.
me.
Be
And
me.
then
Same way.
yeah. And here on Facebook, we can have people from all over the world all in the same group
Yep.
and posting at different times of the day, every single day,
Yep.
and all connected.
Yep.
That's
Canada.
what's super neat.
Yeah. I ship a lot to Canada and made a lot of nice friends in Canada. Evan that I talked about, he's in Belgium. I'm working with another guy in Belgium right now. I'm going to mess this guy's name. Pitch Adler, I think is his name, who's in Austria. You meet all these people all over the world that you would never in a million your whole
Right.
lifetime ever to meet before, and now you meet them and talk to them every day, and it's just fantastic. And man, it's just been a great equalizer and great for the all hobbies because not this is not only just us doing this. This is the military guys, it's the RC guys. That's
Hmm.
how I found through the RC groups is how I found people to go to. I used to drive down to Georgia every year and go to a week long flight festival down there. And
Wow.
that's how you find out about these things, is through this media that we have now. So it's just an absolute game changer.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I tell you, I love it. Because I live in Durham, North Carolina. There's no hobby stores in this whole city. The nearest one is 45 minutes away, which is a train store, which is cool, but they're a very small train store and they don't really cater to the vehicle side. Um, and I'm not into a model train club of any. I'm on a few Facebook groups, but I'm not in an actual club. So I have no interaction with anybody there. And there's not even a model car club in this city, much less there's one model car club in the whole state, and they're
Yeah,
2.5 hours to the west.
sure.
I'm
Yeah,
not driving all the way over there to
yeah.
see them.
I
I
know.
go to their model car show once a year, but that's it.
Right, right.
And so, yeah, I have like nothing out here
Yeah,
next to me. There's one guy that lives, I think, 45 minutes north of me, um, but that's still too far.
yeah.
It's not like we can go to each other's house just
Right,
every other day, check out and have a little build session or something.
right.
So yeah, that's kind of what this Facebook is turned into for us, is our neighbors from
Yeah,
everywhere
there
and
you
being
go.
able to talk and collaborate with.
Yeah. Yeah, we've helped make Mark Zuckerberg a multi-billionaire. I think this, but hey, he had a great product, so it's okay. You don't
Yeah,
mind. you know, he had a
right.
great thing, and it's changed. But quite frankly, it's changed the world. And
Oh yeah.
you got to give it to him. He had really something really special.
And he didn't even make it for what it was. He made it for a much smaller reason, and then
Yeah,
it blew up.
yeah,
You know, it's like other people saw the idea and said, oh, we need to share this around to everybody, not just this college and this
Right.
or these two colleges or whatever.
Yeah.
We got to share this around the world. And like overnight, it was like wildfire, just caught everywhere.
Pretty amazing.
But yeah, the idea of it was ingenious.
Right. 100% agree.
And then to make groups too, because you could have easily just had individual profiles,
True.
no
True.
groups,
Mm-hmm.
and instant messenger.
Mm-hmm.
So to add the group thing to have communities,
Mm-hmm.
that was probably his biggest accomplishment with Facebook.
Yeah.
Because building the website for one, and then to add on to that,
Mm-hmm.
that group idea.
Sure.
That was the neat thing.
Pretty cool.
But yeah, I've been trying to get a lot of well, I can't say a lot, a good few people from over the pond of all over this world
Mm-hmm.
to try to come on here, and they're very hesitant because they don't think their English skills are
Mm-hmm.
up to par.
Right.
And it kind of sucks because I know there's some great builders out there that I'm Facebook friends with,
Mm-hmm.
and I would love to talk to them on here to get their views on the hobby and whatnot. But hopefully in the future that'll happen.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. As more people get exposed to, if you've got a good podcast, which a bunch of us friends who used to fly, we had a weekly podcast, and it was an absolute ball. And what they did, and something you might want to think about too, is they had a group. So maybe
Right.
you had one or two or three hosts that were talking, and then under that we had a chat board. So there could be 50 or 100 of us on there chatting while we were listening to the podcast at the same time.
Oh
And that
wow.
turned into a party, And
Yeah.
so we're all sitting here talking about what the subject is right now, but maybe talking about the next meet we were going to go to or the build that we were doing at the time. And it was a great way to get multiple people together at one time. So you might think about something like that to expand it. It was just an absolute ball.
Well, that's so funny you say that because I know when we go to St. Louis, Ken Patterson has his house open to anybody and everybody that wants to come, and then he'll do a show that night at his house. And I was thinking the Amherst show doesn't seem to have that for us.
Right.
And I don't know how I can't say I could do it at a hotel room, but maybe in a hotel conference room.
Certainly.
I can tell them I want to rent it, or I don't even know if you rent it out, but I'll inquire about it and I'll say, look, we're going to meet up here after dinner because they do a dinner night, like Friday night and Saturday night for Amherst. At least our club at Amherst does that. And I'll say after the dinner, or maybe we go dinner early.
Sure.
We'll come out here and we'll do like a live podcast with everybody here or something.
Yeah, if you think what Ken did last time, he had a stage up there that had his 3 or 4 guests that were talking, which I think they rotated around a little bit too.
Yeah.
But he had people out in the audience too who was watching them, and he was rotating people around, and that
right.
absolute great thing.
Yeah, I watched that. It was kind of it was so neat to see that he was able to pull that off, and he had people that help him make sure it got pulled off right. I'm doing all of this just off of my cell phone, and then I have a laptop here that I upload everything up to YouTube from. But yeah, I think I'd have to have a little bit bigger setup to do something like that, maybe.
Possibly. The guy who did this before and had this group, he had a little room out in his garage, just a little small little room, and he had his nice microphone and stuff like that. But I don't think the investment's huge to do something like that, and the software's out there that allow you to do it. So
well, if we do like this, I can have multiple people join in on this, and we can have like a party room or whatever they call it, or I guess it'd just be a meeting room of multiple people. 'Cause I've seen it on numerous YouTube videos where they're having multiple people come on. And I could do that.
Yeah.
But then I could also try and do something live or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That sounds like a ball to me. I go for it, man. And I'm sure everybody'd be tickled to death to be a part of it. Like you said, then you could get these people in that, like in our case with the RC thing was the host would say, okay, this week we're going to talk about this. as the main subject. I'm just going to sometimes you branch off and go to different.
Oh
But,
yeah, right.
and then people would talk about what they're working on this week and what they find interesting and new releases that were coming out. And so it really became a really big deal. Unfortunately, that the guy that did this at the time, he passed away, and then some others took it over. And quite frankly, I got out of the RC thing there to get into this 87 scale stuff again. But it was absolutely a hoot, and it was something that you looked forward to every week, to getting together with your friends, and like I said, to have the extra little chat to the side and listening to what was, the message or the meeting
Yeah.
thing tonight. So yeah, if that's something you'd want to get into, I mean, I'm thinking you're going to find a lot of people that would probably support that. I know I would, because it was just a ball.
Yeah, well, I got the whole idea for this podcast off of a model car podcast that I'm gonna give a little plug. The podcast is called Scale Riders Podcast, or just Scale Riders, if anybody wants to look it up. It's geared towards 125th scale, and most of his guests are more the lowrider 125th scale builders.
Right.
So obviously, big lowrider fan myself, so I started listening to it, and I thought, nobody's doing that for our scale, for our club. And with the pandemic and all the shows around the country and the world shutting down, what a neat idea would be to get people to get to know the modeler and have a conversation, and why they're building, listen to this in the background or something.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So I got the idea from them, and he did 3 live podcasts where he had like 8 people on all at the same time, and then a chat room. And I thought that might be cool. I don't know how I can control that, but it might be cool.
Right. Yeah, it was an absolute ball for us, and it really gave you something to look forward to. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but also towards the end, they would actually, because some of these guys were so well known within the RC hobby, they would actually get people to give them items. And like at Christmas time, they put together this just a huge bunch of stuff that they'd gather over the years, and they'd do like a drawing and give away a whole bunch of stuff at the end of the year. And that was an absolute hoot. I won several really nice things that way. Yeah, I can see your clocks turning there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And even stuff like you and I who are making stuff, give away a body, give away a car, give away something like that.
Right.
And people will be tickled to death to come in and not only be a part of the activity and be a part of the show, but also a chance to win something too. So yeah, it could really grow into something good. I know ours absolutely was a hoot, and it was a great time. You can be an innovator,
That's
Sam.
interesting. I'm gonna need to start a Patreon somehow for this YouTube podcast, and then have some people send some stuff and raffle it off for Christmas.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do it. I'd be glad to do it. But like our stuff, they would use donated stuff, and all kind of different circumstances. If you know somebody who maybe has had a rough time lately, that everybody knows, you say, hey, we'll throw in a bunch of stuff together, and whatever money we raise, we send it to them, or whatever. There's 100 different ways you can do it, or just the fun of winning something, because everybody does win something. Even if it's just something a little small, people just tickle to death to win something. And like you said, the getting people together in from all over the world who otherwise normally would not have even thought about getting together and talking. And it's absolute hoot. If you do something like that, I'm sure it would go over like gangbusters.
Well, that's funny that you say, get people to get into it from around the world that may not normally do it. Because I did an interview, I think last Saturday, with a guy named Bob Hano. He's in my Rat Rod group, and he built he was in it 2 times, I think, the only 2 times I ever had a contest. He built 2 rat rods for the contest I threw, and that's the only time I ever knew of him building anything until I started looking more into him. But that was like, the contest was the first wind I got of him. And I thought, how cool is that I didn't know him before, and then I throw a contest and boom, he pops up and he builds some pretty decent stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would have maybe known him otherwise if I didn't throw a contest.
Sure. Sure.
And there's a guy overseas that has won both contests, because I have different categories in each contest.
Right.
Both contests he won first place in for different categories. And I don't think I would have known him neither.
Yeah.
Unless he decided to join the competition.
That's something.
So I thought that was neat.
We did the same thing on the Maintenance of Way contest, our Maintenance of Way Facebook page. Raymond Rodriguez said, hey, let's start a contest. You send in a build that you're doing during the COVID-19. We said that was the only stipulation you had. If you built it during the COVID-19 time being off, send it in, with just popular vote, and whoever wins by the popular vote, I supplied a vehicle. You could look at my case and whatever you wanted in, and I sent it to you for free. So, and the guy that won that was a great builder, and I had never even known him before. Same thing as you said, and he was a great builder. So, little things like that. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Doesn't have to be a big investment, but it just gets people involved and makes them feel a part of the hobby, makes them feel part of the group, and stuff like that, and gets a little excitement going. Well, use a little excitement, to kind of keep us motivated sometimes, I think.
Yeah. I was talking to tell you if my head wasn't screwed on, I forget that too. But I was talking to somebody else, one of the leaders in the 187 scale club and and the Facebook group, and they were talking about having like a second build off competition, but they're trying to figure out what the best vehicle, like super affordable, super available to get would be. And I've never done that. I've always left it super open for if anybody had anything they already have. Right. If you have if you didn't even start it, you can use that. But yeah, I'm wondering if maybe in the future I try and do another build off if I just select it to like one vehicle and say, you have 3 months to get it, and then at this month, 3 months later, this is the when we'll start it.
Our military club would do like a theme, sometimes Vietnam, Korea, whatever. We'd also do things like strictly out of the box. You could build any model that you wanted to, but you couldn't add a thing to it. You just had to use your building and painting skills. And so there's a lot of different contests like that you could have, you could break it down into, custom cars, custom trucks, maintenance away, service, ambulance, fire trucks. So the possibilities are endless of the different kind of contests you have.
Yeah, well, that's what's neat, like in today's market too, is you have much more now than you did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago to choose from. And, and then with products like yours and William Radcliffe's and anybody and everybody else that's making personal stuff, the options to dress it up with is much bigger now than, ever before. So you're doing a great service for people in this hobby. William's doing a great service. I think anybody that's really creating stuff for this hobby, for the scale of hobby, is, even if it ain't the greatest stuff, is doing a great service for the hobby.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I don't create nothing. I can build the stuff that's already out there, but I don't create it.
Think about it this way though. Don't you inspire people though to go out and do the same thing too?
Oh,
so whether you
I create inspiration
anything or not, you've given inspiration to get people to go out, and you've kind of built that hype up, to people, oh man, I'd love to do that too, So each of us are doing our own part for the hobby. Even this podcast right now is doing something for someone who would otherwise be sitting at the house staring at the television tonight and would much rather sit here and hear just a couple of guys talk about, the hobby. And spread that out, make a something like this that has 6 or 8 visitors and 57 people underneath chatting about it. Oh yeah, it could be huge, man.
Yeah, I don't know if there'd be that many people chatting, but
I believe there would, because you remember you're going to be talking about not just even the whole United States, but the whole world.
Yeah,
so
I have to. I'm not. I have no computer skills in say advertisement like pictures.
Hmm.
Like if you were to say in 2 weeks I'm going to go live and there's going to be this many people on, you
Hmm.
need like an advertisement,
I
something
think,
to sell
yeah,
that. I don't have those skills to
I,
make that.
I would assume that'd be Facebook. You know,
Well,
is
for
share
like
the
for
all
instance,
the
like
different groups of Facebook and your own Facebook. And I
well, you
believe,
can write it,
mhm,
but I'm looking like a flyer advertisement.
yeah,
Like I don't have editing computer skills to make
right,
a flyer, in other
right.
words.
Well, I guarantee somebody out
But I
there
do know
does.
who does.
There you go. So everybody out there has that information,
Yeah,
and
I
that's good.
also need to get an intro for this podcast. I have no skills in that neither, but I know who does, the same
There
person.
you go. Yeah, you
So
don't
I've got
have
to
to be able
talk
to
to
do
him and
everything. It's just like
right.
business,
Just got
you
to know
don't
the
have to
people to
know
know.
everything yourself. You just have to surround yourself with other people who do know how to do it.
Right. In fact, William Sampson is who I'm talking about, and I was watching a few of uh, his own YouTube videos of the So Milwaukee something.
Mm.
And man, this guy looks like he came straight out of editing filming
Yeah,
school. The way he does his videos is so
yeah,
professional looking. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
I'm gonna just probably have to hire him to do my
Yeah,
videos
sure,
too.
sure. Yeah, that's like me. I'm not a website specialist at all. I'm computer savvy, but it's just something I never learned. So I got with somebody else, David Stupin, who can take and do a website for me, and
Mhm.
even the hosting and stuff. We'll trade out. I love to trade. If somebody says, "Hey, would you trade this truck for this truck?" Heck yeah, I'll do it in a heartbeat. I
Yeah.
just love to trade. So we trade out my items for him to take care of my web page for me and for the hosting and stuff like that. So that works out really well for us. So there's always somebody out there that you can either trade with, or we'll just do it for you free. Let's face it, we're a bunch of guys that, just enjoy each other's company, who enjoy each other's
Right.
hobbies and stuff like that. So guys and the ladies too. So maybe you find somebody out there that says, well, I'd love to do that for you, and I have that skill, and it won't take no
Yeah.
time at all. And boom, there you go.
Well, the podcast in general, I mean, everybody that's been on it is doing it for free. I have nothing to pay them with, but they're doing it out of the generosity of their heart, uh, and hoping to inspire people out there and getting awareness of the hobby and, everything
Yeah.
that can deal with this scale or this hobby is hopefully some way or another being related through the videos that I'm making. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100% agree.
but yeah, maybe the next time you're on in the future, maybe you'll get paid for it. I don't know. Maybe all my guests will have a little compensation coming to
There you
them.
go. Yeah.
I
I
definitely need
think,
to get a Patreon now.
yeah, I think most people that do this kind of thing just do it because they enjoy it. Like I said, this is not the first time I've ever done something like this. And, have a hoot doing it. And, it'll help me in the long run support my hobby too, and my little business that I have on the side.
Oh yeah, I'll
Uh,
have a link to your
yeah,
website down below as well as your Facebook
excellent.
page.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell everybody right now, my website's woefully out of date, and that's my fault simply because, oh yeah, it's terrible because between when I first started the website and I was using the FDM printers without the added detail, now I've drawn hundreds of more items and with the resin printer, and I haven't updated any of that stuff. And so the very best way to get a hold of me is just go to my Facebook page, 3D Model Designs, and say, hey, I see this. I tell everybody, just go to the left-hand side where photos is, click on photos, and you're going to see all the photos of the products that I've featured and built and make, and click on it and get the information that you want. And then just PM me and say, hey, I'd like to buy one of these or buy one of those. And that's the very best way to get a hold of me. The website, uh, people, it gets back to what we're talking about. Everybody's on Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. And it seems like it's where
right.
everybody goes. So Facebook's, a great thing, but I am going to update the website soon. It's just so much work because, like I said, I do have literally hundreds and hundreds of items that need to be put on there and, explained and pictures and all that. And it's just quite a job.
Well, everybody watching, I'll tell you what, I'll just put his Facebook page down below. You
There
can
you go.
click on that link because it's a clickable link and it'll go straight to his page and do what he said,
Cool.
go to his photos. and find anything and comment on anything and PM him on anything that's on there.
Excellent.
That'll
Thank you
work
very
better.
much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
But yeah, this will help you. This is what the whole podcast is about, basically, is to get to know the modeler and what they're about. And
Right.
since you model and since you have a great product that you have to showcase and to offer to people and customers, I mean, this will hopefully get people to understand you better and to understand your product better.
Excellent. And if I meet more people, and the people that I've met, like I said, in my little town of 5,000 people, there may be some other modelers in town, but I wouldn't know it.
Right.
The people I've met, and when I go to the shows and stuff like that, it's just made it so exciting and so much fun for me. The stuff that I build is actually just kind of an extension of the fun I was having in the hobby anyway. I like of myself as just making it easier for other people to enjoy the hobby as well. I work in a factory. I've been there for 30 years. That's what I do for a living. The other stuff is just because it's a doggone hoot. It's a lot of fun to do. Even the printers themselves have turned into their own hobby. I've got 5 of them, and I got a 6th one on the way. And if I didn't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't invest that money, and I wouldn't invest that time doing it. I absolutely.
Well, they're getting cheaper and cheaper, but at the same time, they weren't cheap as when you bought into
No, they weren't.
But yeah, that's the neat thing is, you're a modeler, you like vehicles, you like trains, and you like creating. Not only are you a modeler, but you're a designer. And even if you're not labeled with a degree of designing, but you are a designer, you create your own product.
Sure enough.
Which is much more than most people can say.
Yeah. Right.
So that's really cool.
Thank you very much.
But all right, Dana, I think that's all I've got so far. Any words of wisdom you'd like to tell anybody out there?
I don't feel, I'm a bit of an artist, like I said, with automotive and stuff like that, but I don't really feel like I have any more skills than anybody else could go get, as long as they were willing to spend the time to go and learn the drawing programs. And there's plenty of free drawing programs out there. As you said, the printers themselves are cheap. The last couple I bought were about $250. Of course, you got your resin and stuff, and you got some support material that has to go with it, but that's okay. You can get a simple FDM printer for $250 and set it up. I've got 2 of mine in my hobby room. So you can get into it if you want to, but it does take some time and dedication. Nobody learns anything, I don't think. People always talk about natural skill. I had a brother who was actually a drummer for Hank Williams Jr. at a time. So yeah, he spent his whole life doing music, and but he taught himself the music. He went through when he was 15 years old and started learning and put in the time and the effort. Well, if you're willing to put some time and effort in, you can do the same things I do too. There's YouTube, which is one of the best learning tools in the whole world. Go out there and learn how to draw. It'll show you exactly how to do it. There's groups out there, Facebook groups, again, for all the different types of printers and stuff, and people share their information and back forth. So you can learn to do this stuff if you want to too. But by the same token, if you don't have a lot of time, don't feel you don't have the skills, and don't really even want to invest the time in getting it, fine. Well, there's other people like you and I who build stuff for other people. You can do it that way too. But yeah, I don't like people to think that I'm anything special, just that I took the time and the effort because I was interested in it to do it. So do the same thing. Go out and get the information. Go to YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. YouTube is one of the greatest learning tools out there right now. So that's cool. Well, all right, Dana. This was great talking to you. Glad to have you on it. And like I said, everybody, his Facebook page will be down below. So just click on it. You'll be able to find everything you need to that he offers on that Facebook page. And you all have a good night. This podcast is over.